Greetings, I'm Reverend John O'Toole. Something that crossed my mind the other day, actually it was in the middle of the night, believe it or not. I've been watching all kinds of futuristic TV shows and oldie shows, and it crossed my mind. 25, 30 years ago, say I'm 60, 62. So back in the 30s, when I was 30, not back in the 30s, you know, off to Disney World with the kids, Future World, where you'd go on the Future World ride and you'd see people, you know, with all these amazing technologies. You'd have a phone that had a video camera on it, and you know, the computers would help you and with all the different kinds of functions, and a smart house that could do some amazing things. And Popular Science would be writing articles about how, you know, in the future the government and the local industry will be tracking your movements. And we said, no way, no way. We're not going to give up that right. We like to be independent. We don't wish to be spied on. Here in the United States, we didn't want to have anything to do with that. We've seen that in other countries, whereas you couldn't do anything without permission from government. There certainly have been a number of books that have been written about losing your freedom by being watched constantly by a government. So here in the United States, we didn't want to have anything to do with that. No way, Jose. But here's the question I have to you out there. When did you choose that having government and corporations track your every movement was perfectly fine if it made your life easier? How does losing your freedom have to do with making your life easier? It's a funny thing. Oh, well, if you use the word freedom, then, oh no, we're not going to give up our freedoms. We're not going to give up our right to bear arms, and we're not going to give up our right to free speech. We're not going to give up this. We're not going to give up that. But we have. Every one of us has, in some way or another. Very few of us live a completely off the grid without any kind of tracking from the government. Very few. If you're not tracked by paying taxes on your locations, you're tracked by your children in school. So you get yourself a newfangled car, and it's got this new feature. You can listen to music wherever you go. None of this, you got 3 stations and that's all you can listen to. And when you go behind a mountain, you lose everything. So you have to have a good DVD or a good CD in that drive, or a cassette tape to listen to when you lose your signal. Not anymore. Now you have satellite radio that you can listen to. Oh, but that satellite radio is being tracked, so someone could keep track of where you are. It's not just a radio that's receiving an extra signal. It has to feed back to the tower to say that this one is not a pirated radio. You know, we have networks in our cars now that you have access to the internet as you're driving. You know, you didn't have that 30 years ago. When I start up my car, I have a Chevy. And if, you know, these days I don't go out very much. So if it's around the beginning of the month and I start up my car, it transmits my mileage and my details from the computer built into it back to OnStar. OnStar will send me an email telling me if I'm due for any maintenance. Well, it's like, whoa, when did I give that one up? Now it knows how much I drive each month. Have you seen the reports? There are reports being put out now that'll tell the percentage of people that are still going out of their house when they're supposed to be home bedded in during this perilous time around a virus. They never cared about the people who had the flu, but they care about this one. For some reason, we've given up the rights. We've given up all rights. And when did you decide? Did you decide last week or last month when they say you have to stay home? Did you decide when you bought yourself your first smartphone? And now your smartphone knows where you are at any given moment. Only if someone's listening, right? And who could possibly be paying attention to the location of your phone? Well, corporations do it because they want to sell you advertising. They want to tell you where all the really good restaurants are, where you're at. And if they keep track of where you're driving or where you're walking, they can send you little commercials for that 99 restaurant or that killer rib restaurant. As long as that killer rib restaurant is actually advertising with them. But it goes further than that. Back after 9/11, all conversations on your cell phone, whether it's a smartphone or regular phone, is being recorded. They're doing that to protect us from terrorism. So we gave up that right of privacy. You know, if you didn't want your conversation to be listened to, you just don't talk on the phone. How many people are willing to give up their smartphone so they're not tracked by the government? Anybody out there? I don't have a smartphone, but I don't know if my phone is not being tracked. I don't know. If it has a GPS chip in it, apparently it has the ability to be tracked. Many mysteries around this whole thing. It could have a GPS chip in it, and you don't know it because they've never turned the features on for the user, only for somebody who's taking in the information that's being sent back to the tower. And if you have a cell phone, it's always in communication with a tower. That's why when you go out of range, your battery will go dead faster than it would when you're not in range, because your phone is trying to put out more power to the antenna to stay connected to a tower. So even people with flip phones like myself may still be vulnerable to being watched. Whenever I'm on my computer, any place I go on my computer, someone pays attention. Just like if I search for one thing one time, I now get plagued with advertising for that one product, regardless of whether I bought it or not. So I go and I search for something, and all of a sudden I'm getting all these advertisements for widgets when I already bought the thing. I was just being reminded that maybe I didn't get a good enough deal. So when did you give it up? It's an interesting question. You really have to kind of think about it. As soon as you go on the internet, you're giving up some portion of your rights. As soon as you buy a new car that has a computer in it that communicates to somebody, then you've given up a certain amount of rights on where you go. And how much of those conveniences are you willing to keep? So what if the world decided to turn off their smartphones and go back to flip phones? How do you think that would affect everything? But oh wait, you lose all those conveniences you have on a smartphone. You can't order pizza from it. You can't. Right now you can order pizza and have it paid for without ever talking to somebody on the phone. You're giving up that convenience. You're giving up that convenience to actually spell check your words so that you don't have to look it up in a dictionary. What other options you have? Some kind of fancy program that takes the convenience from you from doing it on your phone. I don't have a smartphone. I can't really help you with that. Only you can answer that. Do you want big government to take over your life? I don't think so. I don't think so. No, I'm not going to let the government take over my life. But then again, you go and check your email. You go on and check your Facebook page. How many people that say they live 100% off the grid, but they still post videos on YouTube? Hey, I watch a lot of those videos that people say they're off the grid. So here we are, living off the grid, but I have great signal on my smartphone. If I don't, I look for a way of getting a connection with the internet so that I can still watch my videos and still be able to post on to Facebook. And not that Facebook isn't tracking you. Why would a corporation put up a website like Facebook and not charge you anything? And whenever they say we wish to start charging people, people say, oh no, no, don't stop charging me. I want to pay for a free service. In exchange for that free service, everything you put on Facebook is open to that company's use, whether it's photographs or messages or your personal searching. These days you can't go walk around in a store because they don't allow you to go walk around in the store. And if you want to buy something that's not a part of the approved list of things in a grocery store, then you're going to have to buy them online. You can't go buy light bulbs in a grocery store because they're not essential. If you want to buy yourself a pair of pants, that's not essential either. You can go around bare ass because you can't get them in a store. You're not allowed to go shopping for clothes. It sounds pretty crazy, doesn't it? But you can buy them online, just as long as you have a credit card and access to the internet. You can't go to the library to get access to the internet because you're not allowed in libraries. So there you go. You got to do social distancing in some friend's house while you're on their computer. It's a funky world. When did you decide to give up your rights? I know this broadcast goes out among people around the world in different countries, and I don't necessarily know how it is to live in other countries, although I've seen some stuff, and I'm sure you have too. And the majority of the time we're in pretty much a free society. Some people live more under control than others, but here we are. In every place you're being punished if you actually go out on the street and go for a walk. If you want to sit in your car and listen to church, we're supposed to be separation of church and state in the United States. But right now, if you want to go sit in a parking lot, listen to the transmission of the priest that's inside or preacher that's inside the church, you're not allowed. You're going to be fined. Just to listen to the broadcast, you've got to be home. So when did you decide to give up that right? The right to go to church, a right to worship. You can worship, you just can't worship with anybody else. When did you give up that right? I'm not sure when I gave up that right. I may not go to church all the time, and that's my choice. But I haven't been told I can't go. So when did you actually make the decision made that decision to allow your government to control what rights you have and what rights you don't? And just because it's on paper saying that every citizen has these rights, we have law enforcement across the world, across this country, across your country, that is taking away your rights. And they don't have to justify it. They're just saying for the good of the nation, for that we don't want to spread the virus. Well, they were concerned about people spreading the irregular flu year after year. How many other things have been contagious? They haven't treated people this way. Why is it this time around they are? And you should be questioning that. What is it about this particular flu that is causing issues with people? Now, I myself, those people that know me fairly well from here, is that I am on that list of being a high risk. I'm old. I have some medical issues. In fact, I have most of the medical issues. They say if you have one of these, you're, So I have decided that I limit my exposure to people from the outside world. But I do have people that have contact with me. I'm just particular. It's not all that bizarre. It is definitely strange, but it's what I do. I am, after all, a nerd, and nerds are very good at isolation just by total genetics. So, this wanted to be a quick video. Now it's 20 minutes long. When did you decide to give it up? When you work for a corporation, of course, they track you wherever you go. I used to work in field service as a service engineer. We used to be followed around. It wasn't so sophisticated. You just had a manager that would keep track of, make sure you're on the calls that you were supposed to be signed out to, and you got there in a timely manner, blah, blah, blah. It was all mechanical. Someone had to actually, watch where you go and how much time you were there, and are you really there this long, and what's taking you so long, get going. Get to the next call. And then you'd hear about uses of a GPS in your vehicle to track your movements, and they would keep track of that. And we thought that was horrible, but them coming out with something like that. Now people just accept it. They just know that they're being tracked, and they say that's perfectly fine. You can see where I've gone, or whether I'm taking a nap outside in a park or not. You can see all that. You know, if your car is parked, then they can't really track you, but now they can track you through your cell phone. So, you know, you think you're actually fooling somebody over, and you're not fooling somebody over. So when did you decide? When did you decide to give up your rights? On paper, you have the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, Declaration of Independence, all those things that are supposed to be protecting your rights. But in reality, who enforces that? Well, the government enforces that. Well, the government is the one that's breaking your rights. Well, when that's all over, will there be thousands of lawsuits? Will people actually sue the government for infringing on their rights? And will it be allowed? It'll be interesting to see if people are willing to give up their rights to be protected. A lot of people gave up a lot of rights when 9/11 happened in the United States because they feared that they were going to be attacked again. So it's perfectly fine for you to listen in on my conversations on the telephone if it's what it takes to protect us. Except many terrorists, they don't seem to use telephones to communicate that they're going to go out and do something stupid. They just go out and do something stupid. So when did you decide? Make a comment down below if this is going out on YouTube of when you decided to give up your rights so that your life is easier than it was the day before. Ta-ta, and may the fairies be with you. Da-da-da-da-da.